New game! Hello! Hi, fellow mega tennists. We got a lot to talk about. I mean, kind of. No. The Nintendo Direct is whatever. Who cares about Nintendo Direct? Yeah, I want to talk about something super big to me. I've been kind of I've been trying to figure out. Hey, Daojin. Oh, actually, before we get started, hi, Demi-Fiend. Hi, Velvet Network. Hi, Dow. Oh my God, Doxin. I am excited. Not because of the stupid reveal that we got that there's gonna be a direct or whatever. That's actually not important to me. What's what's important to me is the other announcement. Last night we got news that there was gonna be a new game. A new game, here. New school RPG by former Shin Megami Tensei staff. To be announced June 10th. I saw this posted by Gamatsu, and then I looked at the Rio Kutia thing, and yeah, it says new school RPG, tentative title or whatever. And then we got a bunch of different names: Mr. S, Mr. I, Mr. M, Mr. N, and I spent a pretty good chunk of my time last night. Literally, I should have been asleep. But I was with my good buddy Spider, and we were just tossing around names and ideas because I wanted to figure out who these people were. So I landed on the idea that Mr. I was Ryutaru Ito, that N could possibly Aya Nishitani, that M was Tsukasa Masuko, and that S was likely Kazunari Suzuki. Well, butter my biscuits, because I was right. Like with everything else in the world, I was right. Kazunari Suzuki, Ryutaro Ito, Tsukasa Masuko, and Aya Nishitani. Those are the revealed names. And I found that very, very, very interesting. We're getting a RPG set in a school. When they say new school RPG, I was really confused, but then that little majigger, that little dot here separates it. So it's new school RPG, not new school RPG, new school RPG. So because it's a new school RPG, it's a school RPG set in it's an RPG set in a school and somehow revolving around a school. It's not a new school RPG as in it's from the new school, not the old school. It's not that. We don't know what they're making, but there's a bunch of stuff already. So the first thing I did, which is basically what I always do, is I inspected Element, because I was like, I gotta know what it says. And when you do that, hold on, actually, sorry, a little high up. When you do that, oops, you get the most memey thing possible. When you inspect, you see abandon all hope, ye who enter. But then you also see this Japanese text. And this Japanese text, it's interesting. It basically is translating to something along the lines of actually I said it on Twitter, so let's just go to my Twitter, because why even bother translating it again? It says, for choices, for destinies, the only choice is left, or the choice is left to your ego. So it looks like whatever this game is gonna have some sort of choice system, or in some way it's gonna be somehow related to that, right? That's kind of the concept that I was really interested in, is like, what do they mean by that? It's obviously pretty vague on purpose. We know that in 8 days, roughly, we're gonna be getting the full scoop, or at least more information. The original listing says that we're supposed to get information on June 10th, but it looks like it's gonna be dropped with Famitsu. So looking at Famitsu, like, they're basically just hyping it up too. They're saying that their next Famitsu magazine, they're gonna have basically this teaser. It came with this image. I actually opened that up here, and this is the image of a bunch of staff that are involved, and we can see other names, like parts of names. Like that one's obviously Shigeru Shiba. I don't know who that is. Then there's like Ma, Asa. Like there's a bunch of like partial names. And that's a thing in and of itself. I'm probably gonna spend a good chunk of this looking into it to try to figure out like the rest of the names like who are they? Like who is your daddy? What does he do? Sort of deal. The name of this game is Monarch, and I think that's really interesting. It's literally the same here, by the way. Um, um, I don't know if Monarch is spelled wrong. It's got the arc like you know, Ark of the Covenant. I don't know, maybe, or I don't know. But there's a phone number here. This phone number. So when you call this phone number, Persona Central did it for me, so I didn't have to do it. Um, but when you call the phone number, so when you call it, you get that. You get these screams followed by a guy saying, "Finally, I was waiting for you, my foolish, silly children," and that's really interesting too. Oh, you didn't hear the sound. Sorry, let me play it. I forgot. I didn't have the audio up. Here you go.
じじようやくか待ちわびたぞ愚かで滑稽で愛しき我が子
So that gives me the impression that it's like a horror game or something, right? I'm not very good with Seiyu, so I don't know who this is. Like maybe it's someone famous. I'm not too sure, but suffice to say, we've got a lot of edge here. We got the Dante's Inferno quote. We got this Monarch spelled wrong, which, you know, whenever something's spelled wrong, that's instant edge. We got the Four Destinies quote. We got this. It's all kind of tying into being some sort of darker atmosphere thing. Sounds like a god. Yeah, I kind of got that impression. It's got some sort of like authoritative like stance to it. Like that's a pretty typical like. Yeah, it just sounds like it's got to be someone important. Um, cool. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, and then if you look at these, they're also these the numbers are all kind of like weirdly drawn out to be square almost. I was trying to like see if there's like some sort of a hidden message within that, but I couldn't really suss anything out there. But this is like the most interesting thing that I've seen. This is how you hype a game. Atlas. Hope if anyone in Atlas's work is working and watching right now, this is how you do it. Because I'm so much more interested in this than anything else right now. Because it's got the mystery. It's revealing some key staff. Oh, because of Wagako. Okay. This is infinitely more interesting than anything else that I've seen Atlas ever do. Well, because you got to remember, this is not actually Atlas. A very, very important thing that people are kind of confused about. Like, people were kind of running under the assumption that this is an Atlas title. This is not an Atlas title. This is a game made by some people who used to work at Atlas. Yeah, it's not an Atlas title. All these people no longer work at Atlas. Ryutaro Ito left in like the early 90s. Same thing with Kazunari Suzuki. Aya Nishitani, you know, he wrote that book, Shin Megami Tensei Eden, was like probably his last contribution. Not Eden, sorry, Jerusalem. And Tsukasa Masuko left in the early 90s too. All these people are pretty much gone. They haven't been there forever. There's a bunch of like these weird like single name people, which either tell me they're like some sort of celebrity, or maybe they're an artist. Like this one's also kind of weird. It's just a lot of things. Like I want to know these other people. I don't know to what degree everyone else is related to Atlas or anything. This person, that's got to be Ito. That's another Ito, but I don't know. A Ito. I think that this will come to the West, but I'm also kind of upset. So this is something that I didn't say on Twitter at all. This is something to really kind of postulate on. These people, Kazunari Suzuki and Tsukasa Masuko, they're busy, or they're supposed to be busy, because they're working on another game already. There was already a game that they were in development. They were working on it. I even posted it here. This is supposed to be the thing they're working on, right? It's been delayed, by the way, like quite a bit. It was supposed to come out like last year, or sorry, I think yeah, I believe last year. It's been delayed. It's gonna come out this year, later this year. But now I'm kind of the mind that part of why this game is delayed is because, well, they have this project that Kazunari Suzuki is involved in, and let me reiterate. Let me kind of express that specifically. Oh, you can see my pledge. Specifically, we know that Kazunari Suzuki was integral to this game. He's the one that wrote the story. We know that Masuko is important because he did the music. So it's like it's one of those deals where I'm kind of upset because I'm just like, dude, you guys got this funding for this game, and then you guys are starting this other game. Don't know how far along this game is in development. I would imagine it's probably not that far. This is probably just an announcement. When you go to their Twitter, there's literally nothing because it's just been made like last month, and I'm surprised no one found this sooner. To be honest, they've only got the one tweet, no likes. So I don't know. I'm like seeing the announcement made me happy, but I did get a little upset because it's a Kickstarter. I donated to that Kickstarter. I expected the game like last year, and I'm like, bro, you're working on something else? Okay, so that's the first half of the gaming news. I thought this was very interesting because, yeah, we got some heavyweights. Aya Nishitani doesn't miss. His games are good, and yes, he has made games before. Kazunari Suzuki, very, very... He's the one that I'm the most nervous about because he's not got the most illustrious history. After looking into like what he's been involved with, like, geez, like it's not like that much. I would not give this name doesn't carry the same amount of weight as Aya Nishitani. Same thing with Ryutaro Ito. Ito and Aya Nishitani, they haven't really made anything bad or things that I would consider like not good. But Kazunari Suzuki is not in the same boat. He's made literal like Iroge. He's made Kusoge. He's made, yeah. he's not the most famed of these names. And then Tsukasa Masuko, obviously his music is good. Too bad I can't play any of it ever because I'll get copyright striked. But yeah, so that's that news. I'm excited. I'm very interested to see what it is. I pray to God it's not a visual novel because this game is a visual novel. Not to say visual novels are inherently bad, but you know it's a little. It gives like this feeling of like I don't know. Thank you. I'm surprised you can see because I'm wearing my headphones, but thank you. So the next part of the news, let's get right into the news. The next big thing is a thing. You know, let's just I just gotta go on my Twitter because that's the only place that I ever do anything. We got Nintendo confirmation at E3. So in less than 2 weeks, we're gonna see something, a Nintendo Direct that's roughly 40 minutes long, info focused on exclusively Nintendo Switch hardware software. This is pretty big because it could be anything. It doesn't even really indicate that it's a Atlas related like property. Like it could just literally be Snowboard Kids. Yeah, I'm kind of praying for Snowboard Kids. It could be so many things, but like in the realm of people who are fans of Atlas, there's like 3 main contenders, I think, for potential releases. I've already talked about it on Twitter a bit, but the 3 things that I think that could be released are shown off at E3, specifically this Nintendo Direct. Shin Megami Tensei 5, easy. That's an easy like assumption. Etrian Odyssey is another thing that could potentially be shown at E3. And the last one, which is the one that people for some reason think is a stretch, is RE Fantasy. Now, the reason why I think people are a little skeptical about RE Fantasy is more to do with the lack of information. But if we go off of the RE Fantasy website, we go to the news log, we scroll all the way down. So this is around the time that this, like, February 15th, February 2019. This is where they're like, oh yeah, you can hope you expect, basically just get excited for RE Project Fantasy is what they're saying. And they said that 3 years ago. So the game that's supposed to be like their flagship title, the first thing they're going to be released. I think it's been 3 years since development. We've only seen production stills. We've only heard a bunch of stuff in relation to like the concept and what they've been building off of. They've done a bunch of interesting like things. Like for instance, there's like these interviews, like this one with Kentaro Miura and Hoshino and Sojima. They're waxing philosophical about like game design. And you know, this whole game has been centered on around the idea of a Royal Road game, just like basically following that Royal Road. What makes a RPG an RPG, a fantasy RPG, but trying to do the best possible iteration of that. Yeah, and yeah, even here it says this is not a Persona game, it's not a Megami Tensei game, it's a new story. So, yeah, this is really interesting. I actually am hoping mostly for this more than anything else, just because this game has been in development longer. We did get the teaser for Etrian in 2018, I believe, and that kind of gives me the hope that it could be an Etrian game, because we had Etrian teaser in 2018. We had the 2019 big reveal for SMT4 or SMT5 rather. So there's these three big things that it could potentially be. The only thing that makes it so that RE Project Fantasy could possibly not be that title is simply because RE Project Fantasy has not had any console name attached to it. If you look at RE Project Fantasy's website, or I keep saying it backwards, I keep saying it backwards, but just know that I'm talking about this game, Project RE Fantasy. It doesn't have any console attached to it. You can watch the trailers. It doesn't end with like a console. It just says it's coming. So even though I'm gunning for the idea that it's RE Project Fantasy, the big thing to kind of remember is that this could come out on any console, or it could be a multi-plat console. The fact that this is a focus on exclusive Nintendo Switch titles tells me that Etrian and SMT5 are way more likely, because I don't think that those are going to get ported anytime soon. But that's the other big thing. I think that's really interesting to see. It's really interesting to hear. I want any of these games, but if I had to like really choose one over the rest, I would say the priority of release for me would be Project RE Fantasy, then Shin Megami Tensei 5, then a new Etrian game. I'm not a huge Etrianer. I'm not an Etrianite, or whatever you call. I'm not an Etrianist. I'm not really much for that. I don't have many Etrians. Oh, you think the exclusive part is for Switch Pro? Well, it says software. That would be Switch Pro would be hardware, but I think that could be something they reveal here too. I actually would be excited for that, because, like, I'll be honest, my Nintendo Switch doesn't run very well. Like, I don't know. Hey, Cranchev, welcome. I've seen so many like leaks and listings for the Switch Pro, and while that's like interesting and whatever, I don't think that it's coming soon. But I wouldn't be surprised if they did break that as an announcement. I want Alice news to be announced separate from Nintendo events, because when Alice shows up at Nintendo events and it isn't Persona, yeah, I mean, well, here's the thing: is that I saw a lot of people say different things. Like, one person was that I was talking to on Twitter was talking about how, Atlas generally does their own thing when they want to do when they want to release their own announcements, and that is somewhat true sometimes, but sometimes it's done at Nintendo Directs. I don't think there's a level of consistency for us to be able to discern whether or not it's intentionally always one or the other. I think that with that, I would prefer, in my opinion, that it's always Nintendo releases or PlayStation releases or some other group thing, because then there's going to be more crossover and they get more exposure that way. For me, them doing a Sega specific thing, and at Sega Fest, that's when they release it, it's kind of like it defeats the purpose, because it only hypes up people in that sphere, and then whatever news outlets choose to cover it, and that limits it significantly, in my opinion. if we wanted to get like the most possible reach, I would want them to do it on a platform that has more reach to people who aren't super familiar with Megaten. I saw some people when Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne HD Remaster was announced, they would go, "Oh, what is this?" and they'd be kind of interested. And I think that reaction is the reaction that I prefer over longtime fans being happy or upset. And in saying that, I feel like the outside of this E3, which I don't really have a whole lot of stock in E3, to be honest. I think E3 is like a product of a bygone era. It's kind of a dead thing that doesn't really mean what it used to mean. I don't really care if they announce it there, but I think the other big time that we might get an announcement would be TGS, because Tokyo Game Show is a place where they historically announce things for Atlus. That's where they announce several different big titles. So if we don't get any news at E3, we're gonna probably get news at Tokyo Game Show 2021. Let's do a quick thing to see when it is. September 30th. It ends on the 3rd. If we look at the general, that would align pretty well with any kind of like SMT5 release, because if they did do some sort of announcement, if they did do some sort of announcement at Tokyo Game Show, that still gives like a couple months if they're gonna do a announcement with a rough timeline of 2 months or so before the release. I think that's a fine thing. I don't actually see that as a problem. That's something that Atlus does historically, that they do these weird long stages of silence followed by the release date, the pre-order, the full trailer or whatever, all in one go, and then you only have a couple months out before it actually comes out. That's a pretty Atlus way of going about things. A product of a bygone era. Okay, so I'm not gonna lie, I'm a pretty big fan of Purple Prose. I am so good at using like useless words to beef up things that I say. It's part of why my videos can be too long sometimes, because I will wax philosophical, then I have to cut everything down and be like, well, this was kind of stupid. I'm just saying something that I could have said simpler, and then I'll just cut it down. And yes, me reading reviews has definitely altered the way I talk, though, because it makes me want to be very, yeah, you know. I don't really use big words that much. I use words that I use in my day-to-day life. So outside of this, I don't think there's any other really big news. This is what I wanted to talk about most, because I really do feel like Monarch is a very interesting game. The fact that we only know that it's an RPG set in a school is interesting. I think that it could be like a hybridized game. I wouldn't be surprised if it was an RPG with visual novel elements, or an RPG with other... Because if it's something like Caligula, which is what everyone's kind of assuming, is that it's going to be related to Caligula, because we got Tsukasa Masuko, who also did the music for Caligula. We got the idea that it's old staff kind of banking off of their fame of having worked on Megaten titles before, tossing their hat into this project. We don't know who the developer is. That's the thing that I wanted to find out the most, and I could not figure it out. There's nothing. There's literally nothing. We have to wait until June 10th. I think that's when we'll know more. I wouldn't be surprised if that's when we get the trailer. Yeah, this is something that I feel like is one of those things that once we get more news, it'll either be something I get very excited for, or it's gonna be very disappointing. It's also important to know, since you brought up Telenet, that Telenet actually didn't develop that game themselves. Atlus co-developed that version of Digital Devil Story. That game was co-developed with Atlus, so it's actually part of the Atlus canon, because Atlus helped develop it. What's my opinion on Caligula 2? I have no strong opinions, because I have every version of Caligula. I have it on Switch, I have it on Vita, I have it on PS4, and I have it on Steam, and it's a very mediocre game. I might actually just do a whole playthrough on stream, just because I think that it's just okay. The battle system is really interesting, but all the other systems are very not. They have a communication system where you talk to the same NPC over and over, and then you become friends, and it's just kind of boring. I have The Lost Child as well. I was interested in that because, Kaneko went and promoted that game, so I was like, oh, these are friends of Kaneko, maybe it's good. It has something to do with some other games that I enjoy. Might as well see what it's all about. Caligula or The Lost Child is I would say a better game in some ways than Caligula, but it's a worse game in most ways. Performance wise for Caligula, it runs really terrible. Even on my gamer PC, I couldn't get it to run well. The Caligula Overdose thing, which is supposed to make it run even better because it's the re-release, doesn't run that well on any of the consoles that I have it for. So I'm pretty disappointed in that. I haven't tried using the PS4 game on my PS5. Maybe that will fix it because the PS5 did fix the performance of my Nocturne playthrough. It's one of those things. I don't know. I feel like at the end of the day, this game is going to be the thing I'm most interested or most disappointed by. We're going to get more news from this before we get news regarding the, E3, because E3 is the announcement's going to come on the 15th. This is going to come on the 9th. So, I don't know. I might also continue doing these stupid news things because here's the thing. I like talking about news. I feel like from the confines of Twitter, I don't get to get a lot of my thoughts out because there's not a whole lot I can say with a character limit and whatever. But I do want to kind of do this more because I want to do it, but I don't necessarily want to do this on my YouTube channel because I'm trying to figure out where to consolidate this. I'm probably going to do a thing where I save this video and upload it to a second channel, not my archive channel because that's specifically for Atlas specific archives. But yeah, this short little stream, 30 minutes of talking about nothing. I might do this again. If some other big news comes out. I might also do a watch stream where we watch the big reveal of the Nintendo Direct together. If you're interested in that, just let me know. That being said, goodbye, fellow Mega Tennis. Hope you guys enjoyed this. And I'll probably come back. I'll probably go live again later on today to stream Nocturne some more. Bye.